So we've got a carcass there, and what I'm going to do, I know people at home are not really into butchery, so I've got the breast carcass basically there. I'm going to put that in a stock pot and make a really rich chicken stock from. I'll put the wings in, and I'll put the ends of the thighs in as well, so that'll make a really rich stock. I've got 2 large breasts there, which I'm going to dice for the Madras, but I'm also going to do the legs. I'll cut the thigh there away from the leg, and I'll chop the knuckle off the end there. I've took the skin off, and that's how I'm going to use the meat. Now the flavour you get from the bone is what makes the difference, to be honest. Not many people at home bother with stock pots, but if you've got a large pan, stick it on, bit of onion in there, bit of carrot, maybe some coriander leaves, and just boil it down for about 2 hours, and it's a world apart from gel pots and stock cubes that you get. Makes the difference on, especially if you reduce it right down and make it really rich, and it will set you apart from what you've maybe had before. So just taking a step further, you can see there I've got the carcass in the stock pot, carrots, celery, onions, some cabbage, garlic and ginger mix, and then I've added some spices, garam masala, turmeric and paprika, and that'll be really flavoursome. Okay, so moving on with the chicken Madras, you can see my stock hasn't reduced much because I've had the lid on, but that's been going for 2 hours now. That's so full of flavour, that really is. You could strain that and use it, but I actually want to reduce it a little bit more, so I'm going to leave the lid off, and I'm going to turn the heat up and come back to that. So at this stage I'm just getting the ingredients ready, because some of them are a mixture of ingredients. So I'm going to make the Madras curry powder now, and as it says in my instructions there, I'm taking the bigger spices first, because they take a little bit longer to warm up, and then once they're done I'll add the smaller ones. So in there we've got the chili powder, and I've gone for a milder one actually rather than the really hot one. Turmeric. The reason I've got a mild chili powder is because I couldn't get Kashmiri chilies, which are a bit dried Kashmiri chilies, because they're a little bit milder, and because I could only get dried bird's eye, I've toned down the chili powder. I've got the curry leaves in there, and I've also got the mustard seeds in there. So I'm going to dry fry them or roast them off once I've done these. Not so much the turmeric, more the other dried ones. So I'll turn my heat on, and like I did, if you watched it, the BIR base gravy, I'm just going to use my hand to control the heat of this. I'll do it on the ring that you can see. So I'll just move this camera a little bit. Okay, so there's all my bigger spices in there. Turn the ring on, and I'm just going to control the heat here. If you go too far with this, it goes bitter, and that's the last thing you want. So this is enough for several Madras curries, but it gets lost in the grinder if you try and make enough for one portion. As long as you put it in an airtight container afterwards, it'll last weeks, maybe a month or 2. So in here I've got the coriander seeds, cumin seeds, the black peppercorns, the fennel seeds, the cinnamon bark, the bay leaves, the fenugreek, and the star anise, and the cardamom pods. I can feel the heat coming through already, and I can smell the oils getting released, the fragrance, if you like, from these spices. I know it seems long-winded if you followed the base gravy and this to do all of this, but you would only make these batches 1 in 10, something like that. You wouldn't have to go to all this trouble. Because I'm doing them all from scratch, it seems like it's taken an eternity, but trust me, it's worth it. You can't just buy curry powder from a tin and use it and get the same results. You just can't. Right, that's getting quite hot now, so I'll pull that off, get myself a cooling plate, because I don't want to put them in the spice grinder hot. So I'll let them cool down on here, put them beside my chicken, which hopefully you saw earlier. Took it a step further now with the chicken. I've got the two thighs, the 2 drumsticks, and some chicken breast, and this is enough for a family of 4 easily, at big portions at that. I'm just going to dry out some of these here. I'll put the dried chilies in, I'll put the mustard seeds in, and I'm going to pick up some of the powder, but that's alright. Mustard seeds, not so much the paprika and the turmeric though, don't want to scorch it. And I'm just going to use the residual heat that's on the ring and in the pan for them. They've got hot really quick. The peppercorns actually start popping. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear it? Right, take that out now. I wish this was smell-o-vision so you could smell it. Right, I'm done roasting my spices, so I'll leave that heat off. I'll put my turmeric and my chilli powder in with those. I'll just spread all that out and let them cool, ready for grinding. You can see how much curry powder that's going to make, quite a lot. They cool really quick actually. I may as well put them in the grinder. I'll just move my raw chicken out the way like a good chef. Need a funnel for this job. The dog's getting confused because I'm dropping things on the floor that he doesn't like, but he can't stop himself eating them. He had a piece of ginger in his mouth earlier. So I like my madrasas, not mild, but medium. I certainly don't want them like a vindaloo, which some restaurants serve. If I wanted a vindaloo, I'd order a vindaloo. Right, lovely jubbly. That's them done. I can't get the grinder across there, so I'll have to do that off camera, but I'll show you what it looks like. The most important thing is get the big spices ground, the cassia bark and the star anise. Alright, that's done. So you can see there, that's nicely ground up. If there are any big pieces of cassia bark, you can just pull them out. There aren't though. Give it about a minute and it's ground. It's it's a little bit coarse, a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. So that's my Madras curry powder. Okay, I'll come back in a second, move on to the next stage. We're going to make the mixed powder, and then we're going to start the Madras. Right, so for the mixed powder then we want 3 tablespoons of cumin, 3 tablespoons of coriander. In fact, I went for half, just half on this because I don't want to build up a stock of it. So 1.5 cumin, 1.5 coriander, 2 tablespoons of the curry powder that we've just done, paprika and turmeric. So I'll put the seeds, the coriander and the cumin, I'll put them in the pan. I'll just turn the heat back on just to get the release of oils through for them. And I'll get ready with the other stuff. So, 1.5 teaspoons of paprika. Got packets of paprika open everywhere. That's right, the big jars. So I'm just doing that off camera. So pull them off a sec because they scorch really easy. So 1.5 tablespoons of turmeric, 1.5 tablespoons of paprika. Did I mention I love paprika? It's actually the last in my jar, that. 1.5 tablespoons of that. Look. Good catch by me there. You can still see, let's have a look. A little bit precarious. There we go, that's okay. Teaspoon of the garam masala I made earlier. This is homemade garam masala. I made this in the base gravy. So if you want to use that, you'll have to go back and watch that. So 1/2 tablespoon of that. And 2 tablespoons of curry powder. Right, that's the mixed powder done. I'll turn the heat off. Right, let's get the mixed powder ground up. Right, excuse the noise. That didn't take too long at all. Okay, so I just had to wash up the pan because I used it earlier to make that huge batch of base gravy. So in here I've got the rapeseed oil, cardamom pods and the dried chilies. Like I say, they're not Kashmiri, they're bird's eye, so I'm having to be careful with the whole recipe here. Don't want it too hot. Me and my son are eating this tonight. We both like it hot, but not ridiculous. Don't want to spoil it. So just infusing the oil with these. I'm not looking to cook them or brown them or anything like that. Cardamom, if you haven't used it, very, very fragrant. Might be able to hear things popping a little bit in here. So there's no colour or anything going on in there. It's just infusing them into the oil. Yeah, I'm going to reduce the heat because I do not want to burn the garlic, so I'm just going to let this pan cool off a little bit. Okay, so let's get this in, that's cool. So 1.5 tablespoons. You can hear that's cooled nicely. The garlic and ginger paste, put that back on. Just keep pulling it on and off if it's getting too hot. Just needs just a little bit of heat, just gently fry it. Not like you're frying the chicken or anything like that, so just gently on and off. Just to take that bitterness of the garlic, particularly the garlic. Raw garlic's horrible. Don't colour it. It takes about 2 minutes just to take the rawness off it. Yeah. Pop your green chilies in, 2 bird's eye green chilies, chopped, not whole, so I'll put them in, you can see that. leave that off the heat. 1 sec. Okay, so I was just organising myself there because I need some dry spices for the actual recipe, as well as the integrated ones like the Madras and the mixed powder. So I've just got a small amount of coriander and cumin there. Right, they're nice and warm. I'll just pop them in my little grinder cup, give them a few seconds to cool off. So as well as the cumin and the coriander that I've got in there, I also need to add my powders, which are in there. So we've got the mixed powder that I made earlier, we've got the turmeric, we've got some chili powder, and then we've got the cumin and the coriander that's already in here. So I'll pop them in the grinder. I'll just do that off camera. Yeah, 1 sec, I'll just grind them up. It's a quick grind. Right, that's them done. Put this back on the heat. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to just heat through again, I'll just grab my tomato puree. Okay. If you remember, this is the green chilies, onion, garlic, dried chilies, just very lightly cooked. Okay, that's just starting to sizzle a little bit in the bottom of the pan, which is enough for what I want. Like slightly before, I'm lifting it off the heat. I don't want it to scorch. See, that's like a roux. It's quite dry in there. I cook a little tiny bit, like I say, avoid scorching. It's an easy mistake to make, thinking you need to cook and cook and cook this to burst the starch or whatever. I used to be like that myself, but it just makes it better. Okay. So tomato puree, 1/4 cup, which is quite a lot of this tube. And then we need a ladle or 2 of the base sauce, which is here is one I prepared earlier. It really catches the back of your throat. You see, like, as I made a thick base sauce, this is going to be really thick. This is going to need some stock in it, but luckily, right beside me, right there is a beautiful chicken stock. Plus, I haven't put the chicken in yet. When I put the chicken in, that's really going to add some flavour, especially the thigh and the leg on the bone. Now, that's quite smooth and heated through now, so we'll get some stock in it and thin it down. I'm not going to mess about with sieves and things. I'm just going to take it off the top, try to avoid any fat that I've got off the chicken skin. There's ladle and a half. See what we look like for thickness. nice, nice. You see that? Still a little bit thick, but it's starting to get there. So if you need to turn the heat down on that, like. Yeah, it's nice consistency of that. I'll just have a cheeky taste of it. I've not used this particular curry powder before. Don't want it to blow my socks off. Too late, like. So much for it being a mild chili powder. Tastes lovely though. Taste is really coming along. A little bit more stock. And then I'm going to, unlike the recipe, I'm going to actually saute the chicken. It's kind of old habits die hard. I've always sauteed the meat to get a bit of caramelisation on, seal it off, and then you can either add it to the sauce on the hob, or you could braise it if you want it to be even softer. And the hob will be fine for this recipe though. So I haven't got that, you know, familiar sharpness in the recipe yet that you have with Madras. I'll add that towards the end. So it doesn't really need much cooking out, that. Can you see how little of my sauce I've used? A little and a half's nothing. If you look at my BIR recipe, just for reference, I made 9 takeaway cartons for the freezer out of that, and each one of those is enough for 3 people. So you're talking 27 meals plus this here from that one batch. Yeah, it takes a bit of prepping, but my God, it's worth it. You can defrost it in the microwave for about 15 minutes just to get the outer part soft enough so you can pop it out the Tupperware, and then you can warm it through in a pan on the stove to defrost. Right, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to have it spitting on me, so I'm going to put this lid on it, just put it on a low heat at the back. Just number 1 on the hob. Right, the actual chicken, I am going to use my grill. I'm going to use ghee to fry it with. Remember, this can get to a really high heat. Quite a lot of ghee in there because I want the flavour from the ghee as well as cooking the chicken. Make sure the ribs on the griddle pan get oil on them, otherwise that chicken's going to stick like that. You can always use a pastry brush, you ruin it though. There we go. Let's see if that's hot. Quite hot. It'll cool really quickly when you put the chicken in, of course, and you can end up stewing your chicken, boiling it in its own juices if the pan's not hot enough. So I want this to be really hot if I'm going to hope to caramelise it. Just stick one little piece in there. Yeah, it's not quite there yet. Right, put the big pieces in. I think I'll do the pieces with the bone in separate from the breast. Not too much in the pan in one go otherwise. Still chicken a little bit. Spread that oil out a bit. This is full heat, but these griddle pans I don't think work as well on induction like this. I'm doing these first because these will take longer than the breast meat, so you're going to have to stagger how long they're in the sauce for, or risk drying the breast meat out, and you don't want that. I mean, sort of 10-12 minutes in the sauce if you saute it first, whereas these 20-25 minutes for these on the bone pieces. I think we become quite lazy in our eating habits, and anything you've got to do a little bit of work to eat, like pull it off the bone, we tend to just take the easy route and you get breast or king prawn, but the chicken on the bone, just like turkey on the bone, is so much nicer, so much tastier. So I'm not too worried about this looking a bit oily, because I want the flavour. This is grease, not oil or butter. I butchered my own chicken, I bought the whole chicken. You get much bigger joints this way, but much better value for money. But of course you can buy thighs and legs already. You can buy any chicken you want, I can't remember. Quite cheap as well, especially meat on the bone because of our lazy eating habits. Right, pretty happy with that. That's bubbling away in there, it's only on a low heat. I'll drop the thighs in first. A piece of breast, I might have to have that for tasting. You see it's still quite clean, that meat, it's not burnt in any way. It's got a really high maximum heat. Put them in, put the lid back on. Wrong lid. And I'll turn the heat up a little bit on that sauce to number 2. Right, I'm going to pause this for a minute because I want that to have, well, for a little while. I want that to have a good 15 minutes before I put the breast in, maybe even 20 minutes. So I'll pause it here, turn the heat off on that, and I'll come back when I'm ready to cook the breast and add that. Okay, so we're back again. While that's cooking, that's only had a few minutes since I last paused the video. I'm going to create some basmati rice using the absorption method, because I can cook this, I can set it away, seal it with the tin foil and the lid, and just push it to the back on a very, very low heat, and it'll just do its own thing. It won't end up gloopy or sticky. You'll have lovely separated basmati rice. I'm going to use some of the chicken stock as well. I'm going to use some of the garlic and the ginger that's left over, and I'm going to cook it in ghee. So let's get started. To get a clean spoon because my wife cannot have chilli on her food at all. So even the rice, I need to take care. So it's not on full heat, that. It's just on number 3. I don't want to scorch anything. So about a large tablespoon of ghee's gone in there.
Should have one.
I'm going to use measurements for the rice so I get the amount of liquid to rice correct. You want 2 to 1 basically. So if I put a cup of this in, I need 2 cups of stock. Okay. I don't normally measure anything, but I'll make an exception, so I'm just going to use these things here. So I'll probably want 3 of them for a family of 3 of neat rice. So that's quite warm. I'm just going to take it off the heat because I want to. I'll cut the onion and garlic. The ginger and garlic just now. So 3 of these. Let's have a look, see what it looks like with 2. I think I'm going to need 3. I always make too much rice. 1. Yeah, 2's going to be enough. Yeah, definitely 2's enough. Okay. I just want to coat the rice in the ghee on the heat. This is the only time you stir it. Initially at the beginning, crank the heat up, and this will get very hot, and you may not realise how hot it's got because it doesn't give away any noises, but you'll see the grains of rice start to become opaque instead of translucent. That's what you're looking for. See, that's on full heat there. Can you see how it's starting to become? You see bits of opaque rice in there. That's what you want. There's no salt in the stock, so I need to add a little bit of that. Now that will already be quite hot. I don't want to burn the garlic, so I'm just going to lift that off. Spoonful of garlic and ginger. Now I can hear the rice. Now I've added the onion and the garlic and ginger because it's got some water content in there when I blended it. I'm just going to give it a minute or so just to cook through and take the rawness off it. And I want 4 cups of stock in here. I think that'll do that. You see how rich that stock is, that's really nice. 1, and that's how hot it is. Go on stock. 2. 2.5. Just going to thin this down. Because this is quite concentrated, I've just put the other 3/4 in as water. Well, that's 2 to 1. This is A little bit of salt needed, remember. Just squirt it down off the sides, cover it, and then don't touch it. That's how easy this rice is. Just break it up, and then we're done. I want this on one of my smaller rings, which is on number 1. It's perfect. So I'm just going to try and seal this before I put the lid on with tin foil. The better the seal, the better the absorption works. And there's the lid. So that's nicely sealed. Turn that off now. I'll move the chicken to the front to better ring. So the sauce now, it's settled a little bit, the vegetable. The sediment is in the bottom. You can soon mix it back in and you get back to the thickness that you want. That'll reduce further. I haven't got the breast in and cooked that yet. Fierce, that ring. So don't panic about that rice. You can leave it for like an hour just on a tiny bit of heat if you wanted to, and it'll be absolutely fine. It'll just carry on absorbing the liquid. Adding stock's ideal. A bit of onion would have been nice. I've actually run out of onion. And I'll come back when I'm ready to fry the chicken breast and add that for the final bit of cooking, along with the mango and the lime. Okay, so this has been in 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to fry the breast off and I'm going to add that to that, let that finish for about 12-15 minutes, and then it's just the pickle. See there, the pickle and the lime. Now, as well as choosing curry powder that was supposed to be mild and it actually tastes like cayenne pepper, I've also managed to choose a mango chutney, which is, well, it's mango pickle actually, that's probably my mistake. Mango chutney is actually quite sweet. This is hotter than the curry, so it's going to be doubly hot when I was actually looking for a mild curry. But hey ho, the flavour's there. I'm making me good wife a separate one because she can't eat chilli, so she's just going to have the base sauce with some cream and some almonds in, so a bit like a pasanda or a korma. So again, let this get smoky hot before I dump the chicken in, otherwise it'll just end up sweating in its own juices. Again, get the ribs oily. This is ghee, remember. So flavour and heat. So we've got the basmati rice, we've got the Madras. I'm going to serve it with some naan breads which I bought in, and some samosas and some bhajis that were on special as well. We've got another guest coming I wasn't expecting, so.
Didn't make anything hot.
Yeah, just let that heat up. Right, so here we go. So I'm doing my very best not to overcook this. Classic mistake that most people overcook chicken breast. Just out of fear really of undercooking it and getting bad belly. It's going to cook in the sauce as well, so it doesn't need to be cooked through. So it's nearly there now. Right, I think that is enough hot time. Now I'm going to put the ghee, most of the ghee actually, might be a little bit too much in there. Yeah, the ghee can go in, it will take it. So hopefully you can see that there. You see there's a layer of ghee lying on the top, don't mind that at all. To mix that in, lid back on, 10 or 12 minutes done. Just the pickles to add. Right, I'll come back in 12 minutes. Okay, so I've added a dessert spoonful of mango pickle, not mango chutney, the spicy type, and I've added the juice of half a lime, and I have thrown the lime in there as well. I'm just going to let that sit for 10 minutes while my wife's cooks. So I cooked my wife up some chicken separately, and she's just having the BIR curry based gravy as her sauce. She can't eat chilli, absolutely cannot have any of it. And I'm going to add some cream and some almonds to that, but I'm not going to add them now, I'm just going to add them as a finishing touch. It helps her if I cool it off as well, rather than her having to sit and wait. I pulled the rice off, it's just sat on the very edge. The tin foil blew up, so you know I knew it was still heating through in there, because it's like a bevel on the top. And then I've got my pakoras and my onion bhajis ready. I've dampened down my Peshwari naans and garlic naans just to go in the oven. In fact, I'll give these 10 minutes in the oven now. And then just a few minutes for the naan. And when I've served it all up, I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll let my son tell you what he thinks of it. Okay, so everything's cooked now. So I've got my chicken madras there, I've got my rice done there, pulao rice, and I've got my wife's chicken, which is going to become a korma, just made with the base sauce, no chilli in it at all, you can't take it. So you can see there, that's nice. I'll put some double cream and some almond powder in. Don't know how strong this almond powder is, so I'll be careful with it. It wasn't cheap, I've noticed that, mind you. It was about £2.50 a packet. It doesn't like it food hot either, so I'll just mix that in and take it off the heat. Let the cream take the edge off it. See there? Fairly thin. Don't like thick sauces. She don't like coriander either, so she won't be having any of that, so I'll just let that stand. Check the rice out. This hasn't been touched since I turned the heat off completely, so you can see there it's absorbed every bit of liquid, and we've got double the volume that we started with, which is what you'd expect, 2 to 1. We'll go a little bit fancy dancy. We'll stick it in a bowl. You see there, it's nice. It's not sticky at all. It's falling off the spoon. Separate that a little bit. So all the grains separate nicely. Let's put that down gently. This one. It's caught a tiny bit on the bottom because even on the very lowest setting on this it's a little bit too hot, but the heat's so direct, if you move it off the ring you don't get any heat at all. It's a pain. Right, a little bit of parsley on 2 of them. Sorry, coriander. On 2 of them. Put my wife's on now to cool off. I'm using 2 hungry, so just put about half of this on there. Okay, that's that one done. I'll just get my breads and my side dishes out. Nice bhajis and pakoras there to go with it. And the breads.